All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the attendees based on your geographic location. Well, today's topic is integrating ITDR with BCMS, that's Business Continuity Management System, ITSM, that is Information Technology Service Management, and ISMS, that is Information Security Management Systems. My name is Zubair. A quick introduction to myself. I am senior consultant at Continuity and Resilience. We would like to call ourselves as CORE. And we deal with topics such as business continuity management, crisis management, ITDR, that's IT disaster recovery, green IT sustainability, information security. We also deal with, we started dealing with CISA, CSIP, etc. Application security, completely tech stuff is something which we are now proficient in. And we consult, we train, we assess, and we also certify individuals on these certification. A quick introduction to CORE. CORE is ISO 22301 certified management consulting firm. Continuity and Resilience, like I said, we like to call ourselves as CORE. We are ISO 22301 ourselves certified, and we are a management consulting firm, and we deal with business continuity management. So sorry, I think we have done this. So let's move on to what exactly ITDR is. What does Information Technology Disaster Recovery mean? The term disaster recovery usually refers to the technology recovery. So whenever there is a term called as disaster recovery, you need to, it's always referred to IT recovery, technology recovery. Anything which is non-IT is considered as business continuity. Anything which is technology would be disaster recovery. What does disaster recovery actually include? It includes computing resources, servers, data, systems, applications, network, telecom, anything which is related to technology and its people. So disaster recovery requires the restoration of technology as well as presence of people who perform critical functions and a restoration of critical infrastructure and presence. Here I would like to, we now understand what exactly ITDR is all about. What is disaster recovery? It's talking about recovery of technology. Now, what does disaster recovery have got to do with BCMS, ISMS, and ITSM? I do not have any slides prepared on what does it got to do, so I thought I'll just speak to you about it. So I hope you're going to be carefully listening to me. Disaster recovery, we will look at what is BCMS, we will look at what is ISMS, we will look at what is ITSM in subsequent slides. But if you have been through these domains, if you are aware of what is business continuity, what is disaster recovery, what that is ITDR, what is ITSM, what is ISMS, you will know that there are some portions which are overlapping with each other. Like, for example, business continuity also talks about IT recovery, IT service continuity, which is nothing but continuing services of technology, that is technology recovery, which is nothing but ITDR. Some places information security talks about how to ensure that your information is safeguarded, how to ensure that technology is built such a way that the information is safeguarded, and it also talks about some bit of continuing services, which also includes information technology related services, that's IT services. So there again, there is some overlap on ITDR. It also talks about business continuity, also talks about people management. So that is nothing but also ensuring that anybody who are required to manage technology would need to be available. So there is an overlap. Business continuity has a clear overlap with ITDR. In fact, ITDR is a subset of business continuity. There is an overlap on ISMS, which we've already noticed, which we already discussed. There is overlap in ITSM as well. Information technology and service management is purely about how are you ensuring your technology is providing services the organization is actually desiring. What is how are you achieving the organization's goal by implementing ITSM? The standard for that is ISO 20000. And it clearly talks about how to ensure your technology processes, your technology services are aligned to achieve management, the goals which the management has laid down. One of those goals which the management might have laid down is ensuring that your business continues. So again, there is an overlap of ITDR, overlap of ITSM over ITDR. So we understand that there is a clear overlap of BCMS on ITDR, a clear overlap of ISMS on ITDR, a clear overlap of ISMS, ITSM on ITDR. Now, when we see that there is an overlap, we understand that everybody understands that's fine. There is an overlap. So what now? What should we do now? Now, does it make sense for us to go ahead and integrate all this? When I say integrate, what I mean is combine all this and see what happens. And how will that integration actually help us? Let's say if your organization is going for the four certification, that is your, three certification, which is your ISMS, ITSM, and BCMS. BCMS, the certification is ISO 22301. ISMS, the certification is ISO 27001, and ITSM, the certification is ISO 20000. Now, if you want to, if your organization is going for these three certification, for example, and you notice that there is an overlap, and if you have not integrated these three standards, what is going to happen? What happens is you would need to perform ISMS activities separately. You will perform ITSM activities separately. You will perform business continuity activities separately. And when you're performing these activities, there is an overlap. So people are talking about same thing on ITDR, on IT service continuity, and different people are talking about the same thing about IT service continuity. So ISMS guy is talking about IT continuity, ITDR guy is talking about IT continuity, your BCM guy is talking about IT continuity, your ITSM guy is talking about IT continuity. Everybody's talking about IT continuity, but it's coming from different people. So there will be some kind of confusion. So if you integrate, what will happen, you're going to ensure that all this will be coming from one particular channel. So the person who is actually performing ITDR, the technology team, will not be getting similar information or repeated information from different people. Because it is coming from different people, there is possibility that there could be some kind of ambiguity, some kind of anomaly, some kind of mismatches. So all this will be eliminated, and the information which the technology team is getting about ITDR will be coming from one particular channel. So so what is integration of all these three standards are talking about? I mean, how is it going to help? It's going to help you in ensuring that your technology team is getting clear instructions on what exactly is expected. So when they are getting clear instructions, you can be rest assured that they will be implementing it and you're getting the desired results. Unlike too many cooks are talking about the same thing, too many cooks spoil the broth. So too many people are talking about the same thing, and then completely there's complete chaos. Okay, that's one you'll achieve if you integrate. The second thing you will be achieving if you integrate is the time and the resources which you will be spending. One person or one team can manage all these three standards. Instead of having three different teams managing this, you can have one team who's managing all this. So you're saving a lot of cost over there, and because one team is managing all this, the information is going only once. There is a lot of time which is saved. So you are giving clear instructions within the shortest time possible by one team, and you're also saving costs because you're not putting too many resources to manage these three. The same thing by three different teams. So by integrating these standards, this is the way ahead. What I see in the future is all the companies are planning to go ahead for integration, and even ISO standards. ISO is now saying that we are creating all the standards in the same format so that it is easier for all the companies to go ahead and integrate it. It's easier for all the companies to follow a particular set. For example, you have BCMS, which came out with the new standards, new format of the standards, which has 10 clauses. Then the ISMS also came with the 10 clauses in 2013. So clause 1 to 4 are non-actionable clauses, and then onwards, 1 to 3, there are 5 onwards, there are actionable clauses, which talks about PDCA. Similar format is used in ISMS also. ITSM, that is ISO 22301, ISO 20000 is also coming out with the same similar format. So that way, it will be easier for all the organization who is implementing these standards to follow one particular set to integrate all this. So when you integrate all this, you're saving time, you're saving cost, there are clear instructions, so there is better efficiency. And also, you're saving time and cost in terms of auditing and certification. One auditor can come, or you can complete the audit in one shot. All the three certification can be achieved in one shot. The auditor can come at one time, because there are same auditees. Technology is one auditee for each of these three. One time they can finish off auditing the technology team for these standards. So the time taken for audits will be much lesser. The cost spent on certification and audits will be much lesser. The time spent by your team to manage this audits will be much lesser. So it's a win-win situation for all. And similarly, the cost, obviously, I guess, I'm not sure about the costing part of it, whether they will charge for three different certification separate cost or how is it, but I'm sure there will be some kind of reduction in cost, because the man days the certifying body is actually spending will be much lesser. So you are achieving a lot by spending very little, and this is the time when you have a lot of cost constraints. Companies are actually looking at reducing costs. So this is one of the ways you can actually project saving cost to your management and reduce costs. So in a nutshell, this is what integration is all about. In a nutshell, in fact, we have concluded most of the complete webinar in this particular first 10-15 minutes about what exactly is integration. We know the advantages and benefits of integrating these standards. However, what we're going to do is probably we're going to see in the next few slides what is ITDR, what does it require, then what is BCMS, what is ISMS, and what is ITSM. And probably wherever we can, we will see these are some overlaps between this, so that you clearly understand the concept which we have just discussed. So let's continue. So now, what is ITDR? We were talking about ITDR is disaster recovery is basically technology recovery. What does it concern about? What does it talk about? It basically talks about having a primary data center. It talks about having proper network connectivity. Then talking about application management, data backup and replication management. ITDR site, having an alternate disaster recovery site. ITDR testing, when you have a site, you also need to go ahead and test it. There should be a failover or a failback. Then there is ITDR maintenance or change management. And then ITDR, IT vendor resilience. So basically, talking about how we're going to manage your vendors who are providing your technology. We will talk about these concerns in detail, maybe in subsequent slides. The first one being the primary data center. Uh, what do you mean by having a primary data center? Basically, you will have a data center where you have all the technology equipment, your servers, your routers, your um, all your application servers, all your critical information, critical data, critical infrastructure of IT will be placed in the primary data center. So the data center architecture needs to be optimized. Licensing legalities of various systems and softwares need to be taken care of. System sizing to be based on projects, business growth, so capacity management needs to be taken care of. And then you have high availability in terms of operating system, application, data server, storage, backups, etc. So primary data center, though you have I mean, even if you are looking for an ITDR site or an alternate data center, it's better to have high availability of your critical infrastructure in the primary site, the data center itself. The reason being that if one server is down, then you have alternate server which you can start using instead of just because if one server being down, you instead of moving to an ITDR site and then managing work, which could be a longer period, it's better if you have high availability so that the recovery can be much faster. OS-related patch management procedures, identification and treatment of all possible single point of failures. So all this is something which you will look at when you're looking at ITDR. And at the data center, which includes how is your power failure taken care of, how is your HVAC taken care of, how is your physical segregation of a data center taken care of, what are the logs which you're managing. So all this, can you see that there is some bit of overlap on information security, some bit of overlap on business continuity, because power and HVAC is taken care of by business continuity. It's how is fire managed? Do you have an FM200? Do you have a fire suppression and fire detection system in the data center? So all this will be part of business continuity. And then your access control system, all this will be part of your information security. And then your high availability, etc., will be your ITDR. So all this is actually overlapping each other. Users or office connectivity to data center, multiple, if there is multiple links or single link, how is that managed? SLAs for vendors to support ICT, that's your information communication technology network system, hardware, software application, all this will form their ICT. And penalty clauses for lapse in support. So what is the vendor management? How are you ensuring that your vendors are able to provide the services which you require? What is their business continuities? What do you have multiple vendors if one vendor is down? So that is also something which you will look at when you're doing ITDR. SLAs for vendor support of outsourced IT services and stringent follow-ups, need-based deployment of latest technology like cloud, virtualization, cluster, RAID, etc. So these are latest one which you can look at when you're looking at considering your ITDR. IT service prioritization with user involvements, and how are you going to ensure that you're going to prioritize? For prioritizing, you would need to do your business impact analysis, do your risk assessment. So that's when you'll be able to prioritize. After performing business impact analysis, you will know which process is most time-sensitive process and needs to be prioritized the most. So based on that, you will ensure that your ITDR is in place. Connectivity of war sites to DC, that is your data center, appropriate training to IT personnel, location safety, HVAC, fire, burglary, vandalism, institution, which we discussed earlier. Data center standard, which is your TIA, that's Telecommunication Industry Standard Association, which is basically an American standard. Here it will be TRI, etc. Then when it comes to network or connectivity, do you have single link or a multiple connectivity options? What about network components? Are there any single point of failure? As in, do you have single firewall or dual firewall? Do you have single switch, dual switch, core switches, access switches? So all this is something which you will look at. Network architecture, built-in redundancy for switching, network testing for hacking, like do you have IPS, IDS, do you have honeypots? So those things which are basically the information security overlap. Network management system, vendor management, which we have already discussed earlier. This would be specifically for network. Then user application management, application availability based on business priorities, application maintenance, support, and related SLAs, new application patch porting, testing, and release of production procedures, version management, end user acceptance test, end user training. So all this would again be an overlap between ITDR, overlap on information security, and some bit of business continuity as well. So this is what you will be looking at the primary data center. You will be looking at how are you ensuring that your applications are managed. You will try and find out what are your critical applications. There might be hundreds of applications. You might be using hundreds of tools you might be using, but you might not require all this at the same time. So you probably need to prioritize what are your critical applications. How are you going to ensure that you will identify the critical applications? Simple. You'll just go back to business impact analysis. You perform the business impact analysis, and you will identify what are your critical processes. When you identify what are your critical processes, you will identify what are the applications those critical processes would require. And those applications which critical processes would require would constitute your critical applications. And then you will start looking at how to have how to manage the recovery of these critical applications. Are you going to have high availability in the data center itself? Are you going to replicate that in an alternate location? Then how is the backup done? We will talk about the backups maybe a little later. So that's what you want to do. So can you see the clear overlap here on ITDR and business continuity? You would be better off performing all this together to save a lot of time and money. Yeah, this is about backup, data backup and replication. Are there any SOPs for backup? What is the kind of backup are you doing? Are you doing a NAS-based, SAN-based, or tape backups? Multiple data snapshots, recovery points, and disk storage, backup media maintenance, recycling, and testing. How are you doing it? How frequently are you taking the backup? What is the frequency? Where are you storing the backup? Which media are you taking the backup on, etc. So offsite storage or a backup data or a media, system application data application based on RTOs and RPOs, log shipping and releases, systems or application data synchronizing between data center, the primary data center, and the ITDR sites, backup tapes at ITDR site, data archiving and retention policy. So can you see that data archiving and retention policy is something which the information security team will probably tell you. They will probably say that as per some laws, like your client's requirements, or for example, if your client is based of US, then HIPAA, I think, would require you to keep your data for 7 years. I'm not very sure, but I guess that's what I work. So the information security will say that, okay, because your data is, we're dealing with health-related information, we need to, our retention policy is 7 years. So the IT has to ensure that the retention is managed as per information security. So there is an overlap here. So similarly, what about your, how are you going to identify What are your how frequently you need to take your backups. You need to do your RTOs and RPOs, and where are your RTOs and RPOs coming out of? They are coming out of business impact analysis, which your business continuity team will probably perform. The BCP team will probably tell you that this is how these are my critical processes, and this is their RTO, and this is their RPO. They can tolerate so many hours of data loss. So based on those toleration, you would probably perform your backups those frequently. So if your company says that, if your process says that I can tolerate a loss of 24 hours of data, you're probably your RPO is 24 hours, and you will probably perform your backup every 24 hours. So again, here there is an overlap between BCM, ISMS, and ITDR. So now we are moving to ITDR side. That's the alternate data center. So what do you do in alternate data center? So you probably look at the org structure, DR site selection process, whether it is a hot site or a warm site or a cold site. I hope everybody understands what is a hot, warm, or a cold site. Just in brief, hot site is a kind of a plug and play site where you have everything available. You have your systems available, your infrastructure available, your applications installed, your seats are earmarked, everything is available. People from as in your when we're talking about ITDR here, it would not be people moving. It'll basically be that your applications are already installed in the alternate data center, your critical applications. The data is maybe having maybe a real-time backup is happening on your data. There are multiple links, so people can connect from multiple links if required. So everything, it's plug and play. So if your primary data center for any reason is down, you can immediately switch over to the alternate data center and start performing work from your alternate data center. As in, you can start using your alternate data center to perform work from your normal location itself. So that would be your hot site. Your warm site probably would be that you will have most of the infrastructure available. You might be having your servers and everything. It might have the OS and all that, but you might not have installed the applications over there, because if you're installing the application, then there will be licensing issues. So what you'll do is you'll probably not install applications. You'll have everything available, but maybe not even OS. So what you'll do is you will start building. If there is a disaster and you come to know that there is a disaster, it's going to take a long time. It's going to be beyond the actual identified RTOs and RPOs. What you'll do is you will probably take the licensing from the license numbers from the primary location and then put it on the alternate data center, and you bring up that data center and you start performing. So obviously, it is not a plug and play kind of data center. It'll take some time for you to build the data center up. So it'll take your RTOs need to be that much more longer, because you are not implementing. You're not having everything ready in the alternate data center. As in, you might because you're taking the license from the primary data center and putting into the alternate data center. What is happening is you're saving costs. So you can clearly notice that a hot data center or hot site would be a costlier one. A warm will be slightly less costlier compared to a hot one. A cold will be even more less costlier, because a cold site, you will not have anything in place, maybe a bare shell. So what you would do is probably start procuring equipment, your servers, etc., and then you'll start building the data center from scratch. So that is going to take that much more longer, but it'll be that much more cheaper for you to have a cold site. So that's the difference between hot, cold, and a warm site, warm DR site. So you will try to identify what is best for me, and how are you going to identify that? You're going to identify that based on the RTOs your process has, and then what is the kind of commitments you would get from the management in terms of cost, etc. Availability of BCM or DR plans at the DR sites, very, very critical. Most of the companies fail over here. You will have a DR plan, you will have a BCM plan, but you will not keep that handy maybe in the alternate site, maybe in the DR site. So if the primary site is down, you don't have access to those plans. So what is the use of having those plans when you are not actually using it when it is required? So it is better that you have available, make this available in the alternate site itself. DR applications based on the priorities of the business, like we spoke about in during, we will get to know this by performing DIAs, DR load or system sizing in comparison to the primary data center, keeping in sync with the primary data center. This will be need-based, that is your backup, licensing legalities of various systems and software, people availability at the DR site, a role clarity for people managing DR site and appropriate training, multiple migration options from primary DC to DR site, sufficient user connectivity to DR site, connectivity of war sites to DR center. Now, what is a war site? War site is a work area recovery site. It is nothing but if you are, like you have the primary data center and alternate data center. So if you have a technology issue and your data center is down, but your work is, I mean, as in your area of where you're actually working, that's your primary location is fine, but you're just technology, there's some technology issue and your data center is not available, then employees can actually sit in the same location and connect to the alternate data center, provided the links are available. But in situations where the links are not there, or for some reason the data center, which was the primary data center, is based out of your primary location where employees were sitting and something happened to the building, people have to move to the alternate location, to the alternate work location. That work location is called as a war site. That's your work area recovery site. Again, the war site can be a hot site, cold, warm site, and a cold site, just like how we talked about the DR site. And from there, do we have connectivity to the primary data center if it is available, or if it is not available, then your alternate data center. So availability of connectivity, location consideration of DR sites, other logistic support in DR site during disaster, DR runbook, that is your ops manual. So these are a few things you will probably keep in mind when you're looking at alternate data center as your ITDR site. What are the tests you're going to perform? Is it important that we perform the test? Absolutely important that we perform the test, because we have the facility available, but how do we know that the facility is actually working as per our requirements? So for that, you need to do the test. So what are the things which you want to keep in mind when you're actually looking at the testing? You'll be looking at DR test scenarios, planning, design of the test, when are you going to schedule it, how frequently are you going to perform the test, are you do we give training to the participants of the test, as in technology team will be involved, your operations team will be involved, other teams will be involved when you're performing the test. So are they sufficiently aware and trained on how to perform these tests? You go to perform, schedule the test, you go to identify what will be the reporting of the test. Once the test is performed, how are you going to report it, how are you going to capture the results, how are we going to showcase those results, DR procedures, deviations, are there any omissions to the test, is it specific to a particular section, are you testing everything, are you testing a particular section only, are there any assumptions you're keeping in mind, are there any omissions you're actually keeping? So those things which you need to keep in mind. DR updates and enhancements based on tests, involvement of business users or observers during the IT test, involving vendors during the test. Are you going to actually involve vendors? If you're doing a full-fledged test, then it is very you're more likely going to involve the vendors as compared to when you're actually doing a test for a particular section. And most of the companies do not perform the test with the vendors. So this is something which is very, very critical that you can actually look at to see if you can perform the test along with the vendors. And then auditing the test reports. So when you actually performing an audits, then are you looking at the test reports as well? Moving on, IT vendor resilience, issue resolution tags, SLA monitoring and strict implementation, spare inventory at multiple locations, people availability for support, training the technicians, implementing BC internally, testing vendor BCM, multiple vendor based. So vendor are the one of the critical um, chain in your supply chain management. So if you are not aware of what is the vendor resilience you have, what is the business continuity the vendor has, you might not be able to depend on those vendors, which means if the vendors are providing um, uh, services to your critical operations or critical functions or departments, and during your disaster, if the vendor is not available, or during a normal time, if the vendor is not available because there is a disaster in the vendor site, then again, there is a problem. So that's something which you need to look at. A lot of companies actually do not go into this field because there'll be some cost obligations involved. So it is very, very important that you actually go into this field also. So this is what you're going to look at when you're actually looking at ITDR as well. So what exactly putting all this together, it's basically IT service continuity. IT service continuity is a subset of business continuity planning. It includes ITDR, recovery planning, and wider IT resilience planning. It involves the evaluation of values, threats, risk, vulnerabilities, and the countermeasures. So you basically perform the risk assessment, and you basically perform the business impact analysis. Once you perform the business impact analysis, you identify your critical processes. Once you identify the critical processes, you perform the risk assessment for those critical processes. When you perform the risk assessment for those critical processes, you will identify some gaps. You will notice that some of the risks are above your threshold. So what you do is you'll start identifying controls. You'll start mitigating those risks by performing the 4Ts. I'm sure you all are aware of the 4Ts, which is your treat, tolerate, transfer, and terminate. So you will see which can be implemented, and you will mitigate those risks. So if you are actually treating them, then you would probably need to put countermeasures, you need to put additional controls, etc. So all that will form your IT service continuity planning. So this IT service continuity will also include whether you will want to do a hot, warm, or a cold standby cold data center. Are you going to look at high availability? Are you going to look at ITDR? Are you going to look at active and passive, active or active passive kind of mode? Are you going to look at how you're going to take backups? Are you going to be looking at how frequently you're going to be doing taking your backups? Are you going to move your backups to the alternate location? How frequently are you going to move your backups to alternate location? How are you going to manage your applications? All this will form the IT service continuity, and it's basically IT service continuity is which describes or refers to one particular, there's no one particular strategy, so there could be multiple strategies based on your requirement. So what is the objective of ITSM, which is IT Service Continuity Management? Maintain IT Service Continuity Plans and ITDR plans that support the overall BC plans. Regularly conduct BI exercise to ensure that all continuity plans are current and updated. Conduct regular risk assessments and management exercises, ensure appropriate continuity and recovery mechanism, ensure that proactive measures to improve the availability of service and implement with obviously cost justifications, and then your suppliers, how you're going to manage your suppliers. So that is about IT service continuity. So can you actually make out that there are some overlaps between ITDR, IT service continuity, your BCM, and your ISMS and ITSM. Quickly looking at what is business continuity. Business continuity is nothing but a holistic management process that identifies potential threats to an organization and the impact to business operation that those threats, if realized, might cause, and which provides a framework for building organizational resilience with the capability of an effective response that safeguards the interests of the key stakeholders, reputation, brand, and value creation. So this is the Definition of business continuity management as per ISO 22301 standard. So if you look at this standard, this definition carefully, what it says is it provides a framework for building organizational resilience. So what it means is an organizational resilience cannot be achieved without having a resilience in technology. So what is it talking about? It's also talking about, other than business continuity, we're also going to look at information technology and ensure that IT resilience is achieved. So it's yours, this is your ITDR. So there is a clear overlap of business continuity and ITDR here, just by looking at the definition. So this is what BCM is all about. It involves all elements of the organization, which is your risk management, emergency management, facility, etc., etc. And you also have your ITDR also, which is a part of it. Right, moving on to ITSM, which is your information technology service management. What exactly is it? It is a set of specialized organization capabilities for providing a value to the customer in the form of services. Like I was mentioning earlier, it talks about services and it does not talk about a particular equipment. So ITSM talks about if you are providing a particular, it'll talk about end-to-end service and it will not talk about a particular equipment. So if we can't look at a server on a standalone basis, it will probably look at the entire end-to-end service, what that particular service is required for. So that's what ITSM talks about, description of the process required to deliver and support IT services for the customer. So here, this purely talks about technology, what is required from technology perspective to ensure that the technology is providing the complete service the customer wants, which is nothing but one of the tools to ensure your ITDR is also in place. So definitely a clear overlap here on ITDR. The purpose primarily being to deliver and support the technology or products needed by the business to meet key organization objectives or goals. Definition of roles and responsibility for people, what all ITSM includes. It includes definition of roles and responsibilities of people involved, including IT staff, customers, and other key stakeholders involved. The management of external supplies involved in delivery and support of technology and product being delivered and supported by IT. So can you see this? This is also the same language which your ITDR is talking about. This is the same language which your BCM is talking about. This is the same language which your ISMS will be probably talking about. Everybody is trying to ensure that we are continually providing the services to your customers by considering your internal and external dependencies. So, which is nothing but your business continuity, your ITSM, your ISMS. So, all this is talking the same language. This is how the ITSM probably look at. There are 4 quadrants to it. There's partners and suppliers, people, product, technology, and process. Partners and suppliers basically talk about, it takes into account the importance of partners and external suppliers relationship and how they contribute to service delivery. People perspective is concerned with the soft side of the ITSM. That includes IT staff, customers, and other stakeholders. Do the staff have the correct skill and knowledge to perform their roles, etc.? Isn't this required for your ITDR also? It is. Obviously, it is. It also looks at product and technology perspective, take into account IT services, hardware and software, and budget and tools. It talks about capacity management, incident management, information security management, IT service continuity management. There are so many things which ITSM actually talks about. From process perspective, it relates to end-to-end delivery of services based on the process flows. So this not only looks at one particular equipment, it looks at the service, end-to-end service for the customers. So this is about ITSM. There is ITIL, which is your information technology infrastructure library, which is a globally recognized collection of best practices for information technology service management. So your ITSM is actually coming out from the ITIL, the library. Now, moving on to ISMS. What is ISMS? ISMS is a systematic approach to managing sensitive company information so that it remains secure, It includes people, process, and IT systems, very, very important, by applying a risk management process. So can you see that ISMS is also saying that I need to look at IT systems, the information technology systems. I need to look at that to ensure that the data which is there in technology, the IT, is also kept secure, confidential, and there's no harm to the integration. So these are integrity. The three key features of ISMS is CIA, which is your confidentiality, your integrity, and your availability. What is confidentiality? Keep your information confidential based on the degree of confidentiality it has to go through. Then integrity is nothing but you don't make any changes to the information. You keep it. You don't you keep it as you have received. You don't add. You don't delete anything based on your requirements, and you keep it only for so much period. You don't keep it for beyond what is required. So that would be your integrity, and then your availability. Availability is to, why is availability here? Availability is to ensure that the information is made available at the right time when it is actually required. What is the use of having the information when you don't get it when you actually need to use it? So it says that you ensure that you make it available. This availability part also talks about business continuity. So this is where your overlap happens. So ISMS, there is an overlap of business continuity in ISMS also. Then there is an overlap of ITDR also. Then there is an overlap on ITSM also. So I hope I have made my point very clear. We are looking at integrating various management systems to achieve our goal by reducing the time, the cost, improving the efficiency, etc., by doing it. So just a quick overview of what exactly ITDR program management will have. You will probably start with initiating the management system, and then you'll do a business impact analysis. You'll do a risk assessment. That's your risk evaluation and controls. You will develop recovery strategies. Then you will identify the emergency response and operations. You will also identify your crisis communication. You'll be developing your ITDR plans and implementing those ITDR plans. You will be performing your awareness and training programs, and you'll be maintaining and exercising the ITDR plans, and then ultimately you will be reviewing and updating it. So this will probably constitute your continual improvement process, your PDCA cycle. So if you look at it, this is the exact same thing which your BCM also talks about. You'll initiate, you'll perform BIA, the business impact analysis, then you perform the risk assessment, you'll identify the strategies, you'll identify the emergency response, you'll identify how do you manage your crisis, your crisis communication, crisis management. You'll probably look at implementing the business continuity plans. Instead of ITDR plans, you'll be implementing your business continuity plans. You'll be performing the awareness and training based on business continuity. You'll be maintaining and exercising the business continuity plans. Here again, it's not ITDR plans, and you'll be reviewing and updating it for your continued improvement. So can you see it's exactly similar to business continuity? ITDR has a clear overlap on business continuity. So I think with this, we can actually conclude the session, and I would like to give time for questions. So if you have any questions, please, we have about 10 to 12 minutes left. Please ask your questions. You can type your questions on your chat box and send it across, and we will probably see if we can answer those questions. So while you're typing your questions, just want to reiterate, I hope I have been able to provide you the reason why we should go ahead for integration. Most of the companies are looking for integration. You will be able to save time, you'll be able to save costs, you'll be able to achieve more in the limited time and limited costs by integrating. So please go ahead, ask your questions. You have my contact details here. You can connect me on, you can write to me at zubair.a@continuityandresilience.com. I don't know why the dash has come, but this is zubair.a@continuityandresilience.com. I'm also available on LinkedIn, Zubair_Amar_2K. Please go ahead and ask questions. Okay, we've got a question. The question goes as, who should approve the ITDR? Is it CIO or security officer? Okay, interesting question. Um, well, so when you are looking at approving the ITDR, I don't know whether you're looking at ITDR plans, or are you looking at probably the entire project of ITDR. Whatever you're doing, whether it is business continuity, ITDR, your information security, whatever you're doing, please ensure that you are actually making it in line with your vision and values of the organization. So you should not implement anything. This is my clear stand. Do not implement anything just for the sake of implementing it. Please see whether how is that implementing the particular standard achieving the company's overall objective. What is the company's overall vision? What is the company's overall mission statement? So look at that, and if your standards are actually or any action of yours, your ITDR or something, are actually complementing it, are actually enhancing it, are helping your organization to achieve it, that's when you need to go ahead and implement it. And who is going to approve it? I, I actually have no clear answer to it. Basically, who would be your who would be the person? Basically, it would be the CTO who would probably say that this is what I would require. But you can take help from your CIO. Also, you can probably take help from your CISO. You can probably take help from your business continuity head as well. I think generally what happens is, what I notice is uh, your CISO, your business continuity, and your are all basically part of your technology team itself. Generally, that's what I noticed. If it is part of your technology team, it's so much easier for you. You can probably take help from your CISO, probably take help from your CTO, and through your CISO and CTO, probably you can send it to your CIO and get it approved from the management directly. Please ensure that you provide a proper business case why you need to implement any particular standard, and based on your business justification, if you are able to justify it properly, then you can take it forward to your CIO, and then from there to the management. So ultimately, it should be the management who should give you a go ahead of implementing any particular standard. I hope I have answered your question. I think while I was answering, there were a couple of other questions which have come. So let me just go to the second question which has come, which is, can you explain what you mean by integration, as each field is quite broad? Should the focus not be more on identification and management of interface across the named stream? So what I mean by integration here is, when you look at what I was telling you was that wherever you see that there is an overlap, see, from certain aspects that overlaps with business continuity. There are certain aspects which business continuity and information security standards are talking about, which are similar. Similarly, you have your ITSM, which is talking about similar language. So what I'm saying is wherever you see the similarities, I'll give you an example. Example here is you need to perform business impact analysis for ITDR. You need to perform business impact analysis to for your BCMS. So why don't you perform business impact analysis for both at the same time? Similarly, you need to perform your risk assessment for your ITDR. You need to perform risk assessment for your business continuity. You need to perform risk assessment for your ITSM. Why don't you perform one risk assessment which will satisfy all the three? So that is what I mean by integrating it. See, by doing this, what will happen is you are going to save a lot of time and you're going to save a lot of cost and you're going to increase a lot of efficiency. So that's what I was trying to say when I was talking about integration. Hope that answers. Let me go to the next question. The next question is, I am unable to clearly understand the difference between the whole ITDR and IT service continuity management. The difference, there's no difference between ITDR and IT service continuity management. See, IT service continuity management is a part of your business continuity. That is the reason why it is called as IT service continuity management. And ITDR as a whole is talking about recovery of your technology. And business continuity specifically talks about ensuring your business runs in case of any disaster or in case of any crisis. So it has come out with a verbiage which says that if I want to ensure that I am running and I am ensuring that my services are continually available, what I would do is I would need my functions to be available, I would need the infrastructure to be available, I would need people to be available, I would need technology also to be available. So for that, business continuity has named it as IT service continuity. It's nothing but business continuity of IT related services. So basically they're same, except that because it is coming under business continuity, it is called as IT service continuity, but it is ITDR itself. So I hope that answers your question. Any other question? I think we have about 2 to 3 minutes more. Well, I guess there are no further questions. We have 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, please do let us know. Okay, we've got a couple of questions now. Suggest any good tools available for ITDR. Okay, that's an interesting question. I have given us webinars specifically on tools that talks about the ITDR tools, business continuity tools, etc. So this we have given for an organization, a company called CII. So you can actually refer to that webinar. On this particular forum, I may not be able to give you a particular ITDR tool. Maybe we can have an ITDR tool webinar itself maybe a little later. I'm sorry, I will not be able to give you that particular information on this forum. I apologize for that. Achha, so it was suggesting a good tool available for ITDR in a banking sector. There are very good tools available on ITDR, but when you're actually looking at tools, you look at a lot of aspects. See, one tool might be beneficial to one company, might not be very efficient or beneficial to another company. That's the reason why I can't, it's a separate topic altogether. So we have to look at the tool in the perspective of your requirements, what is required for your organization. Based on that, you need to look at the ITDR tools or any tool for a matter of fact. So I think that's a very long topic, and I don't think we have enough time to discuss that. If you actually want, I have given a detailed, like I said earlier, I have given a detailed webinar on ITDR or on tools basically. You can refer to those that particular webinar, and you'll probably get a clear understanding of. I have also named some tools for business continuity, named some tools for ITDR, so you can probably get some details from there. So I think that would be the last question, and we are actually come to the end of this session. So probably we can call it off and conclude this particular session. I would like to thank you all for joining the session. Like we always mention, that these sessions are free sessions, but it is you guys, your participation that actually makes this a successful session. So thank you very much for your participation, for joining this webinar and making this webinar successful. Thank you very much, and look forward for your participation for our future webinars as well.